This is the hardest entry that the man who wrote about Every Day with Barbra Streisand has ever written. James Brolin asked her to marry him 3 times before she said yes. He recently told the makers that he can't make a promise right now. As their medical bills keep coming in, their different bank accounts are finally being merged. They had their 25th wedding anniversary last year, and now they are facing their biggest problem. According to people who work in Hollywood, Brolin turned down a $2 million part just to stay home. The next part of his story might be the saddest. Craig Kenneth Brolin was James Brolin's birth name. He was born in Los Angeles on July 18, 1940 during a very hot spell. The day he got there it was 103 degrees. Henry, his good-at-work builder father, barely made it to the hospital. He got there just 12 minutes before Craig was born. Henry was very strict about how he ran his home. Since he was 4 years old, Craig had daily jobs and behavior reviews once a week. Ellen, Craig's mother, was an extra in a movie once, but she never told him. She did not want him to spend time on something other than school. Craig was a quiet kid, in part because he had bad asthma. He was in the hospital for 45 days when he was 7 years old. He did have a smart mind though. He took apart and put together his dad's watch when he was 9 years old. Even though his teachers knew he was good at mechanics, no one could have imagined how much he would love James Dean. Craig's life changed when he saw East of Eden when he was 15. He rode his bike 17 miles to Griffith Park every Saturday for 6 months in secret. He copied Dean's voice, walk, and look while he was by himself. He hid 73 paper clips of James Dean in his room behind a picture. He got an 8x10 camera with the money he saved by not having to deliver papers. He shot 24 silent reenactments with kids from the area. Craig didn't talk to anyone for 11 days after Dean died in a car accident. One of his short videos was found by his acting teacher, who sent it to UCLA without telling him. Nicholas Ray, who directed Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, gave it an honorary mention. No matter how shy he was, that moment made Craig want to be an actor even more. He would throw up before every interview. He was told to change his name in 1960. The studio said that Brolin's voice sounded too German. They even had numbers. People were more likely to remember short names with hard sounds. Craig didn't want to do it. He fought against it in 7 talks. But the movie studio won. Because he was crazy about James Dean, they gave him James. For more than a year his dad didn't talk to him. His mom sent his new photos to family members to try to explain. James couldn't sleep for 214 nights straight without pills. After all that, the studio told him he looked too much like Dean, which was exactly what they wanted. Brolin got small parts on the Batman TV show in 1966. The first role he played was a bank worker. Because he liked how he dropped the money bags, he got more time on TV. He was cast as the Eraser by a different director months later who didn't know he had already been on the show. He did his own tricks and broke 3 ribs. Then Adam West chose him for a 3rd part. No one on the set knew he had been cast twice before. At the time he didn't have a place to live and was living in a 1958 Chevy and taking showers at Fox Studios. Everything broke down in 1967. He was in the Cape Town Affair, a movie he said would not do well. He wrote notes about the bad plot and problems with the culture. Not a soul listened. The movie bombed. He lost his job while going to see his mom in the hospital. Even worse, Fox told him he had to return $11,400 in pay. He had no money. He couldn't get a job for 18 months. People in Van Nuys didn't know he used to be a rising star because he worked as a mechanic for them. Then fate took over. A manager at Universal brought his car in to be fixed, and the way Brolin worked on it impressed him. He told him to take a test. Brolin got the part that changed his life because of that test. Marcus Welby MD was his role, and he played Dr. Stephen Kiley on the show from 1969 to 1976. Brolin played a young doctor who worked with an older partner and rode a motorbike. A lot of people really liked the show. An Emmy was given to him in 1970. After that, 2 Golden Globes came along. The show was the most watched on ABC by the end of its 2nd season. It talked about very important health problems like Alzheimer's, cancer, and sadness. Protests happened after an episode about homosexuality, but Brolin stayed true to his goal of telling important stories. He played a serious part in Skyjacked in 1972. He played an angry Vietnam veteran who takes over a plane. He was in a movie with Charlton Heston. The movie was exciting and tense, and Brolin made the part seem real. Some people thought he did a great job as the crazy attacker, even though it was over the top. It showed that he wasn't just a calm doctor. After that, Westworld came out in 1973. He played John Blaine, a sure-of-himself traveler to a theme park where robots looked and behaved like people. It was a hit science fiction movie that used video effects for the first time. In a shocking scene, Brolin's character dies in the middle of the movie. The rest of the movie was even more powerful after that twist. His work gave the movie depth and variety. Brolin played scary roles in 1979. In the Amityville Horror, he played George Lutz. At first, he wasn't sure about the movie until reading the story scared him. His pants just fell off of a chair. It meant something to him. The movie did very well at the box office, making over $80 million. It was scary to see Brolin play a man who was slowly falling apart. It showed the worries about losing money and having to deal with family problems. In the late 1970s, a lot of people felt, even though he and co-star Margot Kidder fought behind the scenes, it was good for the story. Brolin showed his funny side in Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985. He faked being Pee-wee and played a cool secret agent. It was a clever nod to the fact that he looked a lot like James Bond. He also played the lead role in the TV show. The show ran for 5 years and gave Brolin a steady job. He played Peter McDermott, the well-dressed boss of a fancy hotel in San Francisco. There was new action and new guests in every show, but Brolin was always the main character. He was even in charge of some shows. He was up for 2 Golden Globes during that time. He met someone new because of it. Jan Smithers, who would become his wife, was a guest star on while he was going through a rough breakup. On the other hand, Barbra Streisand was born on April 24, 1942 in Brooklyn. Diana was a school secretary and Emmanuel was a well-known teacher. He only made $4,200 a year, not even enough to keep the family in their small apartment. Barb's father died after having a seizure when she was only 15 months old. They only had $250 saved, so they had to move in with her folks. She never met her dad, but she found a note he had written in her baby book years later. It seems like this one is going to be different. In 1949, Barbara's mother got married again and she had a half-sister. Things didn't get better though. He was cold and once told her he would break her heart. She left home when she was 16 years old in 1958. She didn't have any money or a place to go. She stayed anywhere she could for a year and a half. You can sleep on friends' chairs, old cots, or even fire escapes in the summer. There were 3 outfits, 2 sets of shoes, and 12 records in her one bag, which was tied together with tape. She still went to school every day, even back then. She worked part-time for 75 cents an hour and learned in coffee shops and libraries. Her only income was $17 a week, but she was able to eat by visiting her mother twice a week just in time for dinner. This way she could hide the fact that she was homeless. She fixed her coat and even dyed it a different color with costume supplies she had lying around for 3 years. Barbara had a job as an usher at a theater in 1960 and was making just over $46 a week. She saw and listened to the same play over 100 times. She knew every line by heart, and before work she sang in the theater by herself to get better. A stage manager heard her sing one night. He asked her who she was because he thought she was an assistant. She said out loud that she was trying out, even though she wasn't. Just because they were close, she sang for 3 casting directors right then. 2 days later, she was working as a singer in a bar for $108 a night, which was double her normal pay. But she was fired because she broke the rules. It didn't matter. She had just taken her first real step into show business. She had never taken singing lessons before that. To learn, she sang in subways and stairwells to check for echoes and get small crowds. Later that same year, she was living in a small hot room with a friend named Barry Denon. She agreed to record 3 songs because of him. Barbara had to stay still and 27 inches away from the mic while they used an old reel-to-reel recorder. Barry dropped his coffee mug in shock when they played the tape back. He had never heard a voice like hers before. 14 people in the music business heard the tape. Some people didn't think it was real. One music boss was sure it had been properly engineered and wouldn't believe it was made by a teenager with no training. But the truth came out, and that rough tape is now in the Library of Congress. After that night, everything changed. September came around, 1960. Barbara, who was only 18, walked onto the stage of a nightclub wearing a dress she got from a thrift store for $6. Her earrings were not the same. That month, she had already been turned down for 7 interviews, often because she looked too weird. She was told by one director that she had a $1 million voice but a 5-cent face. But that night she sang Cry Me a River and then Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, in a funny way. The crowd stopped talking. After that, they applauded for almost 5 minutes. The judges gave her perfect marks. For the first time ever, it took place there. Someone who wasn't nice even said that her nose might become as famous as her voice. She had 23 paid gigs in just 2 months. She showed that ability wasn't tied to being pretty. She changed her name a lot in 1961. She dropped the second A and became Barbra. She said it made her stand out. She didn't get plastic surgery to change how she looked, and she kept singing the strange songs she liked. 7 people showed up to her show one cold night. It didn't bother her. She played like everyone was there. It worked because she wouldn't change to fit in. After that came Broadway. I Can Get It For You Wholesale was the name of the show she was in 1962. The day before the big tryout, she had a fever of 103 degrees. She did show up though. Her big scene was almost cut because it was too strange, but she fought for it. The crowd made her sing it 3 times on the first night. She only played a minor role, but the reviews were only about her. It was written in the press that she was the funniest thing on Broadway since Fanny Brice. She used to make $175 a week, but her contract was changed 5 times. Barbra's first record came out in 1963. There were only 10,000 records made by Columbia. They believed it would fail. It only had show tunes and ballads, no hits. But in just 1 month it sold 150,000 copies. She was in charge. The songs were her choice. She turned down a color cover and chose a simple black and white one instead. It went against everything marketers say to do. She got a Grammy for Album of the Year for that record. Frank Sinatra lost to her. They quit because they were so mad about the Grammys. She said, "This isn't luck," in her short statement. This is what happens when you don't pay attention to people who don't see things the way you do. After a year, she was in Funny Girl as Fanny Brice. Brice's daughter didn't want her to play the part. She thought Barbra was too young, too Jewish, and not pretty enough. When people heard she got the part, they took out more than $1 million. Barb broke it though. She played the part 867 times. I only missed 2 shows. She didn't stop even when she had COVID. Because her singing could go up and down 3.5 octaves, she sang songs that were made just for her. In one scene, a fountain broke and soaked her, but she kept singing. He loved it so much that he added it to the show. People were not happy when the show went to London. But by the end, people were selling passes for £150 on the black market. Something crazy at the time. 1965, she made a deal with CBS to be on TV. For 10 shows, it was worth $5 million. Even though she was only 23, the deal gave her full power. Anything that CBS did had to be okay with her first. Commercials couldn't come on during her songs. Her very first show, My Name is Barbra, broke all the rules. She began the show by singing by herself in the dark. 71% of people who were watching TV that night were tuned in, even though executives were scared. She got 5 Emmys. She even made the show's cuts herself. Later, the director said he had only done what she told him to do. She left Broadway for the movies in 1968, making her mark on movie history. She played the lead in Funny Girl. She played Fanny Brice, the part that made her famous on stage. The movie went extremely well at the box office and was the biggest hit of the year in the US. The Academy Award for Best Actress went to Barbra because of how powerful her performance was. It was her first movie ever. The fact that she tied with Katharine Hepburn was even more shocking. It was the only tie ever in that Oscar category. The movie got 8 Oscar nods and proved that Barbra was no longer just a stage star but also a movie star. After many years, the Library of Congress kept Funny Girl safe as a national asset. Then there were other things Barbra did besides plays. What's Up, Doc? Was a big risk for her in 1972. Funny Crazy Show with Ryan O'Neal. She didn't like the story at first and told reporters it would fail. But big changes were made behind the scenes. Her part was changed to be more fun, and O'Neal played the serious one. It worked, it was a hit, and it was the 3rd most beloved movie of the year. Barbra made more than her co-star $500,000 for the part, and reviewers loved how funny she was. The movie became a classic and is now one of the best American sitcoms of all time. Barbra starred with Robert Redford in The Way We Were the next year. This book was set in America during a very dangerous political time and told the story of a passionate Jewish campaigner and a charming writer. The movie made $50 million, even though it only cost $5 million to make. Barbra was nominated for another Oscar, and the movie also won the top award in Italy. She sang the title song, which was the biggest hit of 1974 and sold more than 2 million copies. After many years, it was added to the Grammy Hall of Fame. Barbra wanted to have more power over her work by this point. She started her own film company, Barwood Films, in 1972. Up the Sandbox was her first project. It was a strange but brave movie about a bored housewife who escapes into her dreams. Critics liked how brave it was to deal with feminism, but it didn't do well at the box office. Reviewers said she had the same movie personality as greats like Greta Garbo. Roger Ebert said she played a woman who didn't seem to care what other people thought, which wasn't often seen in movies at the time. Then in 1976, A Star is Born came out. Barbra didn't just act in it, she also made it evergreen. The love song from the movie was a huge hit. She was the first woman to win an Oscar for writing music, and she co-wrote the song. It won a Golden Globe and a Grammy as well. The song Evergreen was later named one of her best ever, and she won another Golden Globe for it. What a hard-won victory that was. With her first movie Yentl coming out in 1983, Barbra fought hard for artistic freedom. She worked on it for 15 years. 12 companies turned her down before one finally gave her $14.5 million. She wore tight bonds to hide herself, worked 20-hour days, and led a team of 168, mostly men. Some people even bet that she would fail, but she showed them all they were wrong. It made more than $40 million. Still, one person said he wouldn't vote for her because she was a woman. At that time, women were only in charge of 0.5% of big company movies. Even though Yentl got great reviews in 1984, the Golden Globes wouldn't put Barbra in the top category for direction. They made up a one-time award just for her instead. Winner for Best Director in a Musical or Comedy. That title went away the following year. Barbra asked nicely at the gathering why she wasn't just added to the group with the others. Congress used her case as proof of gender bias in Hollywood after it became so well known. She didn't give up after years went by. With The Prince of Tides, which came out in 1991, she went back to directing. The story went through 26 drafts over the course of 3 years. She shot in South Carolina after a hurricane, hiring dozens of people who had lost their houses. The movie made $63 million and was nominated for 7 Oscars. The Directors Guild finally gave her an award. She was the first woman to be nominated in their 44-year history. But the Oscars didn't put her in the running for Best Director. People were even more angry when they learned that 94% of Oscar votes for directors were guys. Barb made more history in 1995. The concert show she directed for HBO got the Directors Guild Award for television directing. She was the first woman to ever win that award. There were 125 people working on the show, and 11 cameras set up in 223 different ways. Barbra was having terrible stage fear from a show she had in 1967 where she forgot the words. She hadn't been on stage in 27 years because she was afraid. 26 million people watched the show, which made $93 million. Barbra brought up the fact that only 3.7% of TV directing jobs had gone to women at the event. It had been 25 years since her first fight with the DGA over the same problem. Barbra's private life was often painful when she wasn't in the public eye. It was in 1963 that she married actor Elliot Gould. Jake, their son, was born in 1966. Barbra called off a tour worth $1 million when she learned she was pregnant. She loved being a mom and often took Jason with her to work. But the marriage was hurt. Gould had a hard time with drugs and gaming. She was afraid for their child's safety because he sold their things to pay for his bad habits. They broke up in 1969 and got a divorce in 1971. Barbra Streisand and James Brolin went on a blind date on July 1, 1996. It almost didn't happen. Both were in their mid-50s and had been in relationships that didn't work out. The last time Streisand was married was in 1971. Brolin was stuck in a $1.4 million debt after ending his second marriage. After they got turned down twice, their friend Linda Bruckheimer set them up. Even though Brolin had planned to meet another woman that night, he changed his mind at the last minute. He was scared, so he took a Valium. She thought he would be a tough guy with a beard, but he was clean-shaven for a different part. They talked for 6 hours in the end. They found out later that they were born in Los Angeles, just 3.4 miles apart. The first thing Streisand asked him was, "Who messed up your hair?" It hurt Brolin a lot, even though she didn't mean to. In 11 years, his ex-wife had never said anything nice about how he looked. One thing that was said stuck with him: he almost left. but something about the way she looked at him made him stay. At 3:27 a.m., that night was over. She asked him for a piece of his hair. She kept it. It's now framed in their home with a note written by hand next to it. Afterward, she said that she knew he was different from the 28 blind dates she had been on in the past 3 years after only 17 minutes of meeting him. Brolin asked her to marry him 3 times. The first one happened 87 days after they met in a hot air balloon over Napa Valley. He gave her a $250,000 diamond that was 3.9 carat. No, she said. After a bad situation with a past fiancé, she had a 2-year rule. The second offer came in New York on New Year's Eve 1997. He played her favorite song from when she was a kid, and got on their knees in front of 14 friends. Again, she said no. It worked the third time. It happened on March 15, 1998, at her Malibu home during a party. He sent her a 24-page letter this time with 98 reasons why they should be together. What she didn't tell him at the time, and only did in her book years later, was that she was engaged to someone else when they met. After their 5th date, she broke up with him. 2 years after their first date on July 1, 1998, they got married. It cost $1.4 million to get married. For Streisand, it was held at her home in Malibu. It was very safe. A no-fly zone, 37 guards, and NDAs with $250,000 fines were in place. The event began at 8:47 p.m. The exact moment they met for the first time. 1,500 white roses and flowers were brought in from 4 different countries. Tom Hanks, Oprah Winfrey, the Clintons and Marlon Brando were among the guests. Streisand wore a dress with a train that was 27 feet long. For the event, Brolin wore an Armani suit with diamond earrings. A children's band from her foundation sang a song she wrote for the event called "I've Finally Found You." Brolin gave a speech at the party at 11:43 p.m. There were 273 words in it. It was framed for Streisand. He said, "Every night is a new adventure. It's not worth it to sleep. I can't wait until morning to see her again." He had been having trouble sleeping for 27 years. She helped him get better. Before the wedding, they had been together for 642 nights. In bed, they did crossword problems, read poems, and talked about things they had never told anyone else. That night, Brolin also played a piano piece he had learned in secret called Barbra's Lullaby, but he spelled her name wrong as a joke with his friends. After the fact, John Travolta said that Brolin had written down every day they were together and was going to give it to her on their 25th wedding anniversary. In 2023, they reached that goal. They had different bank accounts from the beginning of their marriage. The word for it was split. It was Brolin's idea after his second breakup cost him $3 million. He said that every Tuesday they even split the cost of dinner. Brolin had $60 million and Streisand had $400 million. In this way, things stayed the same. They only had one account together, with $800,000 to buy the house. As Brolin said in an interview in 2023, this arrangement kept them from getting into the kind of money fights that end other Hollywood marriages. While COVID-19 was locked down, their friendship got even stronger. For many people who broke up, they fell in love again. They stayed together for 425 nights in a row. They woke up at 6:45 in the morning, thought about things and made food. There was one puzzle for every possible year they could have been married. They dressed up and played out parts from The Crown and Bridgerton twice. During the lockdown, they wrote a 278-page log that Brolin said might become a book. Their $35,000 Swedish mattress turned into their home. The name for it was The Office. It was set up to support both of them in different ways, with places for papers and pillows that could be used as laptop stands. From that bed, they made big choices about their jobs. While she was lying there, Streisand wrote songs for her 2018 record. They slept on that mattress for 4 to 6 hours every day. It cost $175,000 to seal their bedroom. Brolin said, "That quiet place is where most of their best ideas came from." They went for walks when they fought. There was a reason for it. They stuck to strict rules. They walked around their 3.2-acre home away from each other, taking deep breaths every 30 steps and not using their phones. They came back after 17 minutes and wrote in their journals about how they felt. At least 217 times, they used this method. In 2019, they fought over Streisand's book and went for 7 walks over the course of 3 days. When they were on vacation, they still asked the hotel staff for different roads to walk on. Brolin said that walks calmed them down and let them figure things out on their own. Streisand also kept busy with her work to improve the heart health of women. In 2014, she started the movement to fight the lady killer. It shocked her to learn that heart disease kills more women than all cancers put together. She fought for more attention and helped pay for a heart center at Cedars-Sinai. In 2018, she gave a very important talk at the National Institutes of Health. She talked about how women whose hearts are sick often get worse care than guys. The number of deaths dropped from 1 in 3 women to 1 in 4 thanks to her work. She also wrote her autobiography, My Name is Barbra, over 10 years. It was 970 pages long and came out in 2023. It was all written by hand. It was something she had been thinking about since the 1990s. Jacqueline Kennedy even asked her to write it one time. Its honesty and style were praised by critics. Brolin made fun of the fact that she really did write most of it on their fancy mattress and bed. Today, 2025, Brolin is 83 years old and still works. He told People magazine, "Don't think about stopping." He was shooting Ransom Canyon and giving voiceovers for the last season of Sweet Tooth. He joked that Streisand made more movies than he did, but Streisand made fewer movies. 97 movies and 600 hours of TV. He said that the next project is what gets him most excited. Because of Ransom Canyon, Brolin is back to making westerns. In episode 9, the cowboy he played, Cap Fuller, dies. He wished his part had been there longer. It was also Netflix's first big project that used solar power. It was made in New Mexico, over 150 miles. At about the same time, Brolin finished reading all 3 seasons of Sweet Tooth. He talked about how long he had been riding horses, and said that playing kept him going even though directing was still his favorite job.